Good morning, Arcadia.
Do you consider yourself a creature of habit, sticking to what you know, staying in the comfortable confines of your day-to-day life, finding peace in the perfectly normal? Or are you more of a risk taker, seeking change, mixing up the ordinary to create something new, finding purpose in movement, in disrupting the status quo? American Arcadia explores these contrasting qualities experientially by giving you control of two distinct characters with two distinct styles of gameplay. But it also itself represents this dichotomy, simultaneously sticking to the norm by drawing from some very familiar, very clear influences, while also taking those influences and deliberately shaking them up in a way that results in a wholly unique storytelling experience. It challenges our innate reaction to categorize and compare things to what we already know by both justifying those comparisons while also existing to disrupt them. If that all sounds a bit too meta for you, well, welcome to the world of Arcadia. Keep your hands inside the ride at all times and please, try not to break the fourth wall. American Arcadia is a game that has and will draw comparisons to a dozen different pieces of media that it appears to pull inspiration from. It's inevitable.
Morning, Mr. Bernstein.
Good morning, Trevor.
Morning, Truman. Morning, Spencer.
In fact, I've done that very same thing with the title of this video. But I also want to be clear that while those comparisons are very much earned, the end result of American Arcadia is an experience that combines all of its components into something really different, and something that explores new territory in a way that most risk-averse games wouldn't be comfortable doing.
Make sure that report is ready for tomorrow, will you?
I'm gonna need you to go ahead and come in tomorrow.
Developed by Out of the Blue Games, American Arcadia follows the story of Trevor Hills, a run-of-the-mill resident of the idyllic and picturesque community of Arcadia. But what starts as a typical day in his typical life quickly turns into a game-spanning escape sequence as he uncovers the true purpose of Arcadia and the secrets behind it. Trevor is escorted in this series of events by his behind-the-scenes co-conspirator, Angela, who uses her position and knowledge to remotely aid Trevor along the way. Now, while the story focuses on Trevor mainly, the gameplay itself is split between these two characters, with Trevor's sections taking place as a series of 2D platforming levels, and Angela's taking the form of a first-person sneaky spy puzzler. And really, a more accurate way to describe the gameplay is as a true composite of these two perspectives, because the game not only constantly switches between them, but also features plenty of segments that combine the two simultaneously, resulting in a fusion of gameplay elements that wouldn't be possible from a single character's point of view. So at its most basic level, this involves moments like Angela simply unlocking a door for Trevor as he makes his way across a level, but American Arcadia later finds ways to make these sections much more interesting, not only in the types of puzzle mechanics that are involved, but more importantly in the way these moments are presented to the player and audience. And it's this piece of the game that's so difficult to describe without having played it, but it's also what's at the core of what makes American Arcadia's premise so inventive. Now, the execution of this premise certainly has its ups and downs. There are genuinely clever pieces here that brilliantly play on the interaction between the characters, resulting in moments that deliver exactly what the game promises, and then some. In a game that frequently references the fourth wall, it manages to create several thoughtful moments that will have you cracking a smile at its cleverness. But then there are times when the game feels like it's simply sticking to the bare minimum in order to implement its multiple perspective mechanics. Angela's sections in particular can at times feel like the developers slapped on some basic puzzles simply to fill space, making these opportunities feel more cumbersome than stimulating. The moments that focus on Trevor, meanwhile, aren't any more complex, but they are impressively cinematic, leveraging the game's striking sets to build some exciting chase sequences. These sections can run into problems too, though, as they often require a bit of trial and error to figure out exactly how you're supposed to react. The implementation of mechanics that use both characters, while generally smooth, isn't really built to be fast-paced. So there are certainly points in American Arcadia during which it feels like it's losing a bit of its momentum, particularly during the middle of the game's arc, after the novelty of its introduction has worn off, but before things really start to get pieced together towards its ending. And it's undoubtedly here where American Arcadia is at its weakest, relying mainly on promising but simple mechanics and not yet having revealed enough about its narrative to feel truly engaging. But just when you think the game has peaked at simply introducing an interesting concept, it begins its process of building to a finale that utilizes some really spectacular forms of presentation, pacing, and storytelling. This final quarter of the game is a fantastic example of how a game can truly grow into itself, using every subtle puzzle piece that came before it to mature into a memorable gaming experience. Some of the ending sequences are incredibly clever, humorous, and unique, as the game takes a noticeable turn from something pretty entertaining into something the developers clearly just had a lot of fun with, and that translates directly into the player's experience. And even if there are weaker moments during the process of getting to this more satisfying final segment, there's plenty to keep you entertained during the entire playthrough of American Arcadia, because the game features a slew of memorable sets and environments that hold value in simply existing as the backdrop to your unexpected adventure. It's hard to deny that American Arcadia's presentation of and commitment to its art style is really well done. The smooth and colorful implementation of its retro-futuristic aesthetic is a treat to look at, and the game's developers frequently showcase their ability to take seemingly mundane environments and turn them into stunning pieces of visual art. If one of the goals was to present the community of Arcadia as a picturesque city of the future, they've succeeded effortlessly, creating a space that could easily be described as what people from the current day think people from the past think the future would look like. The sound work is solid as well, making really good use of stereo effects necessary to make a 2D environment feel fully three-dimensional. Sound effects and environmental voice lines pan heavily from side to side as you make your way through an area, filling out a world that functionally is very linear. The standout here is the voice work, which features a cast of characters that all deliver fantastic performances, providing the player with genuinely distinct characters, all likable or unlikable for their own reasons.
Refrain from selecting the image that does not match your personal preferences or likings.
What?
The evolution of Trevor throughout the course of the story is handled pretty well, and the payoff this arc delivers feels really good as you near the end of the game. This is a character American Arcadia needed to get right, as his timid and ordinary traits are not just things that describe him, they're the backbone that the entire story is built on. Yuri Lowenthal, the voice of Trevor, does a great job getting those nuances right, and the development of his character is facilitated the entire way by the performance of Kritzia Bajos as Angela. In some senses, Angela's character acts as the courage that Trevor is missing, and the back and forth between these two can be both humorous and heartwarming.
You can call me Kovacs.
Kovacs? Like my turtle?
What? No, man.
To even out the positive vibes of our two heroes, we're also given outstanding work from Cissy Jones and Reggie Davis, both delivering performances as heels that turn out to be much more three-dimensional than the game's premise would have you believe. All of these characters are a major part of why the game's story is delivered so effectively and makes its intention so clear by the time the credits roll. It's easy to tell you that American Arcadia's narrative involves elements and critiques of consumerism, exceptional wealth, political lobbying, and perhaps most depressingly, the defeated acceptance of all those things. But it's the way it tells that tale that I was most impressed by, and I think it's something that you should truly experience for yourself. There's so many small touches here I hated that I loved about it. It nails the delivery of a particular commentary on our modern society. But the difference between this game and other pieces of media that have done this before is that American Arcadia goes one step further, criticizing not just the unstoppable forces that have created an institution teetering on dystopia, but also the aftermath and response to this happening. When we look at other games in parallel genres to American Arcadia, it's common to see a consistent, steady build-up from the opening scene to the final credits, and this game follows that same trend. But here it's not done with progressively more complex puzzles or more dangerous environments. Instead, the climb to the finale comes in the form of increasingly clever ways to present the story to the audience, and to challenge the very role the audience plays in why the story unfolds the way it does. This is a tale that questions the strength and validity of our society's often superficial morals. And in American Arcadia, every character, every player, every person plays a role in the game's urgent narrative as it comes barreling towards a finish line you're not likely to soon forget.